Okay, good afternoon. Now, what we're going to talk about is black people blaming each other for the obstacles that we have to face in our day-to-day lives, regardless of where we live in the world. Black people fail to recognize the obstacles that we face daily. Therefore, we blame each other instead of addressing the obstacles that white supremacists have placed in front of us. Here in America, we own 400 black banks. We had Black Wall Street. We had black towns and cities. We control this economy. Our banks financed black inventors so that they would have the startup money to produce their inventions once they receive a patent. You can get a patent, but if you do not have the capital to produce what it is you have invented, then you're stuck with selling your invention to someone else and they will make the money. Now, I say this to say that we have to understand the obstacles that have been put in front of us and not blame each other for what we think is our personal failures. We are not a failure. We have been defeated economically by white supremacists, and we fail to recognize it. We fail to recognize it and address the obstacles. Instead of addressing the obstacles, we say that we are not inclusive. We do not work together. That is a lie. Why is that a lie? Because to work together, you need a means of communication that you control so that you can get your narrative out. At one time, we had BET, a black-owned TV station, and it talked about what was of necessity to the black community to defeat white supremacy. We also had black radio stations. These were gains made during the 50s and 60s. We had stores in our neighborhoods, businesses in our neighborhoods. So the first thing, before we blame each other, let's ask each other what happened. BET was purchased by a white company. Now, what would have happened if Mr. Robert Johnson had not sold his TV station to Caucasians? We know what happened to Martin Luther King. We know what happened to Malcolm X. But forget that. Let's understand something. We lost a major means of communication that would have kept us on the same page, moving in the right direction. Then they took our radio stations. So we lost the ability to communicate our concerns with each other. Then we had our artists, Curtis Mayfield, Tupac, Marvin Gaye. They were making music that addresses the social inequities that we face on a day-to-day basis. Then there was a meeting with rappers, and they were told that if you have any political rap that is of social value to the black community, we are not going to allow you to get that information out. We will only allow you to make gangster rap. You see, and that's how we ended up in this situation. So we have to understand that we lost our ability to communicate with each other and to address our concerns. We lost that when they took our means of communications away. But now we're working our way up because we have the internet. So now we can address our concerns and problems. But we have some content creators that are sellouts, that are betraying the Black community, and they are causing divisions. We have to know who these people are and stop subscribing to channels that are divisive of the Black community if we are to succeed. Now on my YouTube channel, when I cut on YouTube, I delete a lot of the white content creators. I delete the white content creators because they're not going to profit off of me. They are not going to profit off of me. I only listen to Black content creators on YouTube. In fact, I don't even go to movies that are filled full of Caucasians. I only support Black content on YouTube. Now, but then there are some white content creators that tell the truth. And once they have earned my trust, then I listen to them. But whoever I listen to, I fact check. I always fact check. And the truth adds up easily. And I say all this to say that we have to stop blaming ourselves for the situation that we are in and understand the obstacles that white supremacy have put in front of us that put us in this situation. Now, this is what they're doing now. I've noticed, and I always notice this, when I see a construction company doing road work, building a building, people working for the state or the city, I always look to see how many Blacks are there. And it's getting to be fewer and fewer Blacks. The system is cutting us out of our jobs. Here in Ohio, they came up with a law which says that if you don't live in that neighborhood, you can still work in that neighborhood. And so we have now, you rarely see a Black person working in our neighborhood. You see white people working in our neighborhoods, and we're giving our tax dollars to them. Now, this is going on all over the country. They're putting Black people out of work. Now the Supreme Court is deciding whether homeless people should go to jail or not. You can go to jail for being homeless, but understand this. If we don't get the jobs, we'll end up what? Homeless. And you can even get a job if you're not making a certain amount of money, you won't be able to afford a home. And if this happens, you will end up in jail and you will be working for a corporation. So you might as well be a slave. This goes back to the Jim Crow era. This is what Donald Trump is talking about when he talks about make America great again. He's talking about bringing back Jim Crow laws and enslaving Black people again. But if we had BET, we'd all be looking at that and we would get this message. If we had In Ohio, WABQ, WJMO was our radio stations. We would get this information from them. We don't have that anymore. We have been disenfranchised. Our ability to communicate with each other has been disenfranchised and bought out. And you have black people watching BET as if it's black owned and they represent the values of the black community. They do not. And then you have these content creators on YouTube that's playing on black hatred, disillusionment, that are widening the divide between blacks. But now that you know the problem, now we can work out a solution. But we have to understand the problem first and not blame each other and talking about we're not together. We're not together because we don't have the communicative ability to control the narrative that is important to us to keep us on the same page. We don't have that. The only thing we got is YouTube. But we have to be careful of content creators because some people will say anything to make a buck. So what I'm trying to say is we have to stop blaming each other. Blame the white supremacists. They want us to blame each other. They create the narrative for us to blame each other. We have to look underneath the BS and look at what and realize what the situation is. Because understand this, they are so good at what they're doing, they exploited Mexicans, and yet Mexicans hate us and not them. They exploited the Asians, and Asians hate us and not them. They dropped an atomic bomb on them, and you got Asians wanting to be white. Understand the game. Understand the game. And we have to learn to talk and listen to the person who knows what they're talking about and not try to make this some type of intellectual combat, some kind of debate. If you don't know, act like it and listen. I know a lot, but if someone knows more than me, I listen. I will debate a person with facts. But then I expect him to debate me with facts and not just nonsense and name calling. I'm trying to explain what I just explained to you all. And I was talking to this brother yesterday, and the guy told me to shut up. Then he said some nonsense, and then he said, oh, now you're not talking. I said, sir, you told me to shut up. I mean, the only thing I could do was just remove myself from that conversation. And this was another black man. And we were talking about issues to help get us out of the situation that we are in. Now go back to Matthew 13, verse 10. This is why Jesus took the easy way out. Because if you try to come at people with facts, you're going to get an argument. You got to give them a parable. If you give them a parable, then the chances are you can get your point across. And that's what I'm glad I made this video, because now when I'm explaining things to people, if they haven't put the work in, I'm going to speak to them in parables. Like and subscribe. Talk to you later. Have a blessed day.